I don't know about you, but I am exhausted. After 2 years of pandemic and everything going on in the world, I've been feeling worn down, overwhelmed, and disheartened. And I think a lot of us are feeling this way. That's why I'm so glad that this year's theme for International Nature Journaling Week is Back to Basics. We all need a reminder that nature journaling doesn't have to be complicated. We can keep it simple in a way that brings more joy to our lives every day. Hi, my name is Rebecca Rolnick, and I'm speaking to you from the hills, forests, and the ancestral lands of Onondaga Nation of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, or what is now known as Syracuse, New York, in the United States of America. I also wanted to acknowledge that June is LGBT Pride Month. As a member of this community myself, I know just how good and reassuring it feels to know that you're in a space that's welcoming to all parts of who you are, that someone's got your back. So I want to be really clear that that's true for the nature journaling community. Okay, back to today's theme for day number 4, inspiration. To start out, what does inspiration mean? Did you know that if you break the word down into its ancient Latin roots, it literally means to breathe in? So let's take a minute together to breathe in and breathe out. Tune in to how you're feeling right now, inside of your body and your mind. Tune in to where you're sitting, where you are in the world. Our in-breath comes from the out-breath of plants doing photosynthesis. And when we breathe out, that becomes the inhale of plants using carbon dioxide as our waste product to power photosynthesis. And their waste product of oxygen becomes our breath again. So yes, we'll have some adventures in our nature journal really soon, but taking a minute to breathe in and out, paying attention to it, even just this small thing already connects us to nature in a deep and profound way. When the world feels so heavy and hopeless, it can be really hard to feel happy. Our brains are wired to help us survive, so we automatically remember all the bad things that could be a danger to us. That can make it really hard to find the wonder and joy that's around us every day. But when we search for the wonder, we're priming our brains to look for it so that we can find it. A nature journal doesn't just help you to remember your experience later. It helps you to have that experience in the first place. This is really important because every moment that we observe and that we experience only ever happens once. My favorite quote is, "Everything is a once-in-a-lifetime experience," from Kobe Yamada. And in Japan, there's a concept called Ichigo Ichie, which, I quote, speaks to the idea that no one encounter can ever be recreated. Each moment and each convergence of time, space, light, mood, thought, and circumstance is singular and unrepeatable. As such, every encounter should be met with one's full attuned senses. Some encounters plant seeds that take root over time, while others change the course of one's life in a single moment. And this goes for spending time in nature or spending time with another person. Another thing I think it's fun to think about is the fact that while the Earth is orbiting the sun is orbiting around the galaxy and bringing the Earth along with it at a speed of 483,000 miles per hour, or 792,000 kilometers per hour. And it still takes over 200 million years just to make one orbit. We're not even in the same place in space as we were a year ago. In fact, we're about 4 billion miles away from where we were last June. So every moment is different. Now, I know some people get freaked out by thinking about how big space is. So if that's you, just forget about that part. But I think it's really cool. So I like to think of my nature journal not as an art project, but as a butterfly net to help you pay attention and to catch the wonders floating by as you pass through the world. Your observations, what you notice, your thoughts, feelings, and emotions, who you are as a person in that moment. And that's always changing. Your wonders and curiosities. We're surrounded by these all the time, but we just have to notice them. It's not about what ends up on the page, but how the act of using the nature journal helps you to have an experience that you otherwise wouldn't have had. So today, I split up my journal into 4 parts. What makes me feel a sense of wonder or awe today? What do I feel curious about today? Who is a creature, plant, animal, or other, who I feel grateful for today? I'm glad that they exist and that they are here with me. And finally, what surprises me today? Let's leave some room for the unexpected. Okay, so now I'm going to go out with my butterfly net and see what wonders I can catch in this unique moment, in this unique place, and with my unique perspective. Okay, I'm back. Here's what I found. I actually started with surprise. I noticed that the crabapple tree already has fruits, and it was just in bloom a few weeks ago. The fruits are still really hard, though. I wonder when they'll be ripe. Do crabapples form more quickly than regular apples? I thought apples take months for the fruit to form. If the crabapples form more quickly, then why are there so many left in January when the crabapple tree is full of robins eating the fruits in the snow? Next, I felt grateful to see some golden tortoise beetles, probably my favorite beetle right now. And that says a lot because there are more types of beetles than almost anything else. For this one, I have a little story to share. As I watched, the beetle flew into an abandoned spider's web. He got stuck and squirmed around. But before I could do anything to help, he freed himself and flew onto another leaf. Whew, what a relief. It was difficult to sketch this beetle because he was moving the whole time. So I did a series of quick sketches from different angles, just trying to record what I could see in that instant. For curiosity, I noticed a bunch of cottonwood fluff floating through the sky. I wondered, where is it coming from? Could I find the tree it's coming from? How far and how high can they travel? I know that physicists figured out that the fluffy part of dandelions, the part you blow on to make a wish, actually creates a vortex that allows the seed to be carried upward so they can travel for miles. Could cottonwood be doing the same thing? What kind of habitat or what conditions are best for the seed to land in and that will give them the best chance of growing? Will one of the seeds I'm looking at right now become a tree someday? Will I ever, without knowing it, see that very tree? Or will one of the kids I've taught see that tree? Finally, I circled back to find something that made me feel a sense of wonder. I noticed all the tiny red mites on a rock and the brick pathway. I realized, even though I've been seeing them for my whole life, I know almost nothing about them or how they live. I just thought of them as something to avoid when you're sitting on the ground. I also felt a sense of wonder noticing the yarrow growing next to the path. Isn't it amazing that humans have had relationships with plants going back hundreds and thousands of years as we've used them for food and medicine? It makes me wonder if any of my ancestors in Europe grew yarrow in their garden too. For more activities like this, I invite you to check out my free ebook, Science and Imagination, Exploring Words in Your Nature Journal. I also have a new Nature Journal Quick Start Checklist, which is a guide to help make nature journaling simple, so you can get out the door and have your own nature journal adventure. You can find links to both of these below the video. Okay, that was a lot of fun. When we find a sense of wonder and curiosity, it feels good, and it can make life more joyful. But that is just the beginning of your journey. Every time you pay attention to something in nature with a sense of wonder or curiosity or gratitude, it's like if you can imagine a tiny thread of connection forms between you and that part of nature. And over time, those tiny threads can become thicker and thicker until they become ropes of connection and kinship. John Muir Laws likes to say that love is sustained, compassionate attention. And this is true not just over the span of one journaling session, but over a lifetime. When you're connected by these ropes to all different parts of nature, you can really feel like you're part of the web of life, a part of the living world that sustains us. To know that humans are not on the top of a pyramid better than everyone else, and we're also not evil or inherently destructive. We're one part of biodiversity, just like all the other creatures we observe. We have a role in the ecosystem. And then in the same way, we can know that each one of us as an individual is a unique and valued member of our community. We all have different gifts to share, and we're all supporting each other. And then you can realize that your spot, the place where you inhabit, is an important place that connects from out on the horizon that you can see to all other places where we're all sitting and exploring and nature journaling all around the world. So yes, I love nature journaling because it can help you to think like a scientist, to investigate mysteries and figure out how things work. I love it because it promotes a sense of well-being and mindfulness, a feeling of peace inside of you. And I love it because it's a way to find a sense of adventure every day without needing to go far away into the wilderness. But at the root of it, most of all, this is why I love nature journaling, and to develop a sense of kinship and to nourish that part of myself that was always longing to have a deeper connection with the natural world. Nature journaling can help you see the world in a whole new way, a richer, deeper, more fascinating way, not just as a worldview, but as a way of being, how to live in the world and how to coexist, healing the way we relate to nature and to each other. We can see other creatures not just as things or natural resources to use, but as beings with their own agency, or as many Indigenous cultures perceive them, as our elders and teachers. We can learn from them, not just about them. When we go outside, we're not a separate objective observer, but we're having an encounter with other living beings. We can come into a reciprocal relationship with a place, understanding what that place needs and how we as humans and that place take care of each other. I want to end this talk by reading a poem. You might have heard this one before. I know it's a favorite in our community, and honestly, I wasn't originally planning to read this, but it just seems to fit so perfectly. Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. So, what makes you feel a sense of wonder today? Create some space to catch something and see where it leads you. Again, if you'd like to learn more, I invite you to check out the resources I've shared with you linked below. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this week.